What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Currently heading over to 666 Motorsports. The Pistons came in on Friday, so we're actually gonna go load everything up. I got the loaner truck from my roommate Joe, so huge shout out to him for that. So we're gonna go pick up the engine blocks, go drop them off for Total Performance, and start getting the machine work done on them. Hopefully soon we can have the engine back together. Just arrived over at Wayne's house, so gonna get off, go load up these engine blocks. All right, I don't know who said these things are light, because they still weigh a good ton, but here's a close-up of my motor. Cylinder walls look good, no crazy scoring, but what's crazy is that it actually wore away all of the cross hatching. There's no cross hatching left, so that means that it was probably having issues with oil, like holding oil on the walls and lubricating the rings. So the rings were probably just wearing away. Luckily the skirts are coated. They got that little graphite coating on them, so it didn't scratch up the cylinder walls. But yeah, this is gonna get bored over 10,000ths, and we're gonna drop some 12.5 compression slugs in it. Go. See y'all at the machine shop. Ooh, oh, look what came in. Like I said in the previous video, we are going high compression. And these are the new Mahle 12.5 to 1 10-over pistons. So there's the part number if anyone wants to check it out. These are going to be the ones that are going in my motor. So this should really nice gas port reliefs. So these are going in my motor. Bump up the compression, maybe give the motor a little bit more torque, a little bit more horsepower. Just overall, make it a little bit more meaner of a street car. Just that nice NA build. These things are nice. Can't wait to get these inside. It's late in the day now. After we got the motor dropped off, we're actually gonna go ahead and start getting the power steering rack swapped over and get started on building the lines for the hydroboost. So here I actually have some high pressure hose that this is actually made for power steering. So this will be the high pressure line. And this will go from the power steering pump up to there, and then I'm hoping that my old line that I had made will reach from up here, which it should, down to the power steering rack, so it should be plenty of hose there, so we shouldn't have an issue there. I went out and bought some hose fittings, a lot of AN stuff. I wanted to just go ahead and just do AN. It's a little bit on the expensive side, but it should be worth it in the end. These three fittings right here, though, this is what you'll actually need to convert the hydroboost over to AN. So it's the Russell 640830 and two 670530s, and then of course the Maximum Motorsports AN fitting for the power steering rack. So that's the part number right there, ST73. So it converts it over to a 6AN line. All you gotta do is just install those with your high-low pressure ports, and everything should come out nice and dandy. So I'll go ahead and start getting everything unbolted. I'm gonna try and pull the entire power steering rack and hoses, everything assembled so I don't make a mess, and we'll see how that goes. But for now, I'll put you all on time lapse and I'll get going on this project. Alright, I got it all out now. This stuff is super grimy, so I had to put some gloves on. But here's another piece of the puzzle. I did have Maximum Motorsports solid steering rack bushings. So what these allow you to do is offset the steering rack up and down in 3 different locations. I'm actually running mine in the center hole for now. And I was noticing I was really tight up against the pan, so I may lower it 1 more hole, run it as low as possible, since I do have the bump steer kit already on it. And here is the hose that we're going to be stealing off of it. And it may be as easy as just unbolting it here and probably just bolting it straight to the hydroboost. If not, we'll probably have to cut it and shorten it. But overall, it looks really good. Doesn't look like it was leaking too much. Nothing too crazy. I think my only leak was right here, which could have been just from a loose fitting. But I'm gonna go ahead, empty out this power steering fluid, get it all drained out, and get this hose swapped over to the new rack and get everything ready to go. Well, worst possible thing that could ever happen is when you need some brake clean and you have a full bottle and it's your only bottle in your entire garage. And so say it's like, cool, I got a full bottle, it's new, pop the cap open and it's broken. That really sucks. So probably gonna have to make a run in the morning to the parts store, get some more so we can clean up this power steering rack and clean up the parts before they go onto the new stuff, because I'm not a fan of putting dirty parts on new parts. So I'll figure out a way to clean them. So stay tuned. Okay, so we found 2 small issues. One is the boot on the back of the power steering rack was actually starting to get a tear in it. This is not good, as a lot of these parts actually get really grimy just because of how low they are and how just driving in weather. But getting dirt in here is actually really bad because it can actually get into the power steering pump, or not pump, my apologies, the power steering rack, and wear out your inner tie rods out a lot quicker. And it looks like both sides were rubbing. So what I think the issue is is that it's actually rubbing on this bolt right here. So that will actually be an easy fix, as I do need to actually raise my control arm up because my car is a little bit too low, and it's actually it actually makes my control arm, when it's sitting at right height, to almost be at a slight tilt up. So when you're at right height, you want your control arms to be as flat as possible. So since I have been debating on dropping the front end about 1/2 inch, I think it's about time to go ahead and raise the rear control arm mounts up to the higher bolt, which should possibly even lower this car and maybe even change some of its handling characteristics. But that is issue number 1. Issue number 2, I found when I was removing the solid steering rack bushings. I noticed that the rear ones had damage to them. So I don't know if this was possibly where I was getting some of my steering play from, mainly because this one over here is actually really bad. It looked like I got hella chewed up. And I do remember at one of my events, the bolts actually coming loose, and I did my best because I only had 5 minutes to just tighten those suckers as tight as I could. So I think this was possibly just one of those things you kind of got to charge it to the game. Just a little bit of race carnage. Oh well. I will call Maximum Motorsports in the morning and see if I could possibly, if they could just hook me up with these 2 parts. But you know, part of me is thinking that I'll probably have to buy the whole kit, which even then the whole kit's not very expensive. I think it's only like $60. So I'll hit them up in the morning and we'll resolve this issue that way. But yeah, I guess we can go ahead, remove those outer tie rods and get them swapped onto the new power steering rack, and also remove the steering shaft and get that put back in the car. So yeah, I guess I just gotta keep going with it. Okay, got everything removed. Got most of it cleaned up. It's actually really nice to set yourself up a piece of cardboard underneath if you're going to be working with any kind of power steering fluid, because it's just nasty. It's almost impossible to not make a mess. So what I like to do is set up a nice thick piece of cardboard, and of course still use an oil drain pan. But any kind of oil that spills, or whenever you crack lines or pull them apart, it'll just it'll all get soaked up by the cardboard. So it's a nice little helpful tip there. But here we're back at the new power steering rack, and we'll be swapping in the Steeda aftermarket outer tie rod, or a bump steer kit as some people like to call it. These are still in pretty good condition. There's just no real play in them, even though they've seen better days, but they still work. Check both of them. This one seems to be a little bit tighter, but yeah, we can get those swapped onto this. So what I did, instead of measuring it out, I actually counted the turns. So I got 25 on the left and 19.5 on the right. So what that means is that when I go to put them back on, I'll thread it in 25 times on one side and 19.5 on the other. So that will give me kind of a baseline and kind of put my all my steering alignment somewhat in the location where it was at when I took it out. So once I bolt it back in, the alignment shouldn't be too off, and then after that I can dial it in using some toe plates. So, but since the battery's gonna die on my GoPro, next order of the business is to raise the lower control arms to the upper hole and get that situation squared away. Alright, so we got the lower control arms relocated to the upper mount now. I do need to go get a new wrench because this side, this bolt is actually that nut's actually very difficult to get to. So that's an easy fix. I'll just have to go stop by the auto parts store, pick up another bolt. But now, other than the bushings, we do have mostly what we need to get done, so we can go ahead and install the power steering rack back in. I will not be able to use the bushings that came with it because the hardware just does not fit the size. The size is just massive, so that takes a massive bolt, and the K-member takes a way smaller bolt, or a way thinner bolt, so there's just no way I could use these. So I will be ordering that in the AM. As for now, I think this is a good stopping point. So I think tomorrow I'll probably just pick back up on it. Maybe even get the new brake lines installed. I did order them. They are from LMR. So those also came in. And if you're wondering, so I ordered them off LMR, but they're actually from Maximum Motorsports. So here's the part number for them. And these will be able to adapt the 98 Cobra to the 86 Fox. Easy peasy. Ain't gotta try and bend no lines. These are already pre-bent. And it'll get rid of those ugly ones right there. So yeah, then we can actually remove the brake system and re-bleed it, get that replumbed in, and then I have some Motul racing fluid that I will be putting in it, just some high temp stuff so I don't cook my brake fluid. But yeah, so that's what's next. So far I think this was pretty good progress for one day, because those control arms are not easy to, well, it's easy and it's not. It's a little bit time consuming because it's just not a whole lot of room to get a long wrench up in there. And then also it's just a lot of tight tolerances. But yeah, till next time, take it easy.